Hey everybody, welcome to the Head Startup. What I want to do over a couple of videos is to go over some of the tax reliefs that are available for startup companies in Ireland. There are a few different reliefs that you can avail of depending on your circumstances. Just to avoid too much confusion, I will just be going over one of them in today's video, and that is the Section 486 tax relief. So this applies to corporation tax. If you qualify for this relief, you can get up to 40,000 tax relief against your corporation tax bill in the first 3 years that you are trading. So that could potentially be worth up to 120,000 to your business. So if that sounds good, then stick around. Before I kick off, I just want to tell you about some of the other videos that I have on my channel that might be useful for anybody starting out with their new business. I will leave the links for these below in the description section. I've made one video that goes through everything that you need to do in the first 6 months of setting up a limited company in Ireland, such as all the forms and the fees and everything that you need to do from a legal standpoint to tick all of the boxes. A second video I have goes through all of the forms step by step on how to register your company for tax in Ireland. And lastly, for anybody who is thinking of setting up as a sole trader in Ireland instead of setting up as a limited company, I have a video that goes through everything you need to do to get set up as a sole trader. And there will be plenty more to come, so if anybody is new to the channel and wants to keep up to date with these, I really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Okay, so now let's get back to looking at the Section 486C relief. This tax relief applies for both tax that you pay on your trading profits of a qualifying trade and also on any chargeable gains that you might have on any qualifying assets. So basically on your trading profits and any capital gains that your company might have. What we need to have a look at here first is what are the different qualifying trades and which trades are actually excluded. So firstly, your company needs to have been incorporated after the 14th of October in 2008 and needs to have started trading between the 1st of January 2009 and 31st of December 2021. So this part shouldn't be a problem for most people. Now the revenue lists out a number of trades that are excluded. Let's go through them now. Firstly, a trade that has been carried on by another person which your company has taken over, or activities previously carried on by another person's trade or profession. So basically, if you have bought your business from somebody else or you're taking over somebody else's trade or profession, you probably won't qualify for this relief. Next on the excluded list is any company involved in the land development trade. Also in companies involved in the trade of exploration and extraction of oil and minerals. Then you have service company activities as defined under Part 13 of Section 411 of the Tax and Consolidation Act 1997. What these would be are professional services like a doctor or an accountant, or even if your business just provides services for these professionals, you might also be excluded. And lastly, on the excluded list are companies involved in fishery, agricultural production. If your company hasn't been excluded yet, then the next box that you need to tick is that your annual corporation tax bill has to be €40,000 or less. Only companies with an annual corporation tax bill of €40,000 or less are eligible to claim the full tax relief. But if your business has an annual corporation tax bill of between €40,000 and €60,000, then you may be eligible to claim some partial relief. I will go through some examples shortly so you can see how to claim exactly how much tax relief you are eligible for. But firstly, there is one important bit of information that I need to go over. The amount of corporation tax relief that you can get will depend on how many employees you have and how much employer's PRSI you are paying. The max corporation tax relief you can get per employee is €5,000. So let's say for example your company has one employee and you pay over a year €5,000 worth of employer's PRSI tax for that employee. In that scenario, then you will also get a tax relief of €5,000 corporation tax. And if you have two employees and you pay 5,000 employer's PRSI for both of them, then you will get a €10,000 corporation tax relief, and so on. But as I said before, it is capped at €5,000 per employee. So if you pay €6,000 employer's PRSI for one of your employees, the maximum you can claim for that employee is actually only €5,000. And similarly, if you're only paying say €2,000 worth of employer's PRSI tax for that employee, then you can only claim €2,000 worth of corporation tax relief. And the overall maximum tax relief that you can get is €40,000 in a year. So if you do the math on that, you can claim tax relief for up to 8 employees. So that is 5,000 multiplied by 8 employees is €40,000. Don't worry if this is not making too much sense yet. I'm going to go through some examples now and it will be very clear for everybody. So let's take a look at some examples here. The ones that they have on the revenue website are actually pretty good, so I'm going to have a look at these. So as they say here, the amount of tax relief that you can get really depends on the amount of employer's PRSI that you are paying. So you'll see this here in the example that we go through. So for example 1, this company, the first accounting period that it had ended on the 31st of December in 2014. So it was in the time scope of when they said you needed to be incorporated and trading. And it had a corporation tax bill in the year of 25,000. So that is less than the 40,000 limit. So they also qualify in that instance as well. So as we can see here, this company had 3 different employees and they paid a varying amount of employer's PRSI for these 3 employees. So for employee 1, they paid €2,000. For employee 2, they paid €4,000. And for employee 3, they paid €6,500. And as you'll notice, this is actually above the 5,000 limit that I was mentioning earlier on. So the employer's PRSI amount of the 6,500 will actually be capped at 5,000. So as we can see here, there's a total PRSI of 12,500. But the amount of relief that they can actually claim is only 11,000. That is because they capped this employee number 3 at 5,000. So for this company then, they can claim a corporation tax relief of €11,000 off their €25,000 tax bill. And it's not just 1 year that they can do this, it's for the first 3 years that they are in business. So they may have another €11,000 in year 2 and year 3 that they can also deduct against their CT bills. As I mentioned earlier on, you may also be eligible to get some partial tax relief if your CT bill is between 40 and 60,000. So they have an example here that also goes through how to calculate this as well. So let's have a look at example 2. So for this company, it had the same accounting period, so it qualified there, but its corporation tax bill was €55,000. So that was between the 40 and the 60,000 euros. So they can claim a partial tax relief. So this company actually had 5 employees, and we can see here that each of the 5 employees, the employer's PRSI is all below €5,000, so there's no issues there. So we can total up their total employer's PRSI to being 17,500. So in order to calculate the partial tax relief, you have to do 2 different calculations. You have to do calculation A here and calculation B, and whatever results in a higher tax liability, that's the one you need to go with. So let's have a look at both of these calculations. So for calculation A here, it might look a little bit tricky, but it's actually quite easy. The second half of this formula only comes into play if you have capital gains. So for this example, they didn't have any capital gains at all, so you can actually nearly ignore that second half of the formula, and the first half of it is actually pretty easy. So it's actually just 3 times whatever the difference is between your total tax bill in the year. So this company had a tax bill of 55k over the maximum amount of tax relief that you can claim, which is 40k. So 55,000 here minus 40,000 is 15,000 multiplied by 3, and that works out as a 45,000 tax bill. And then the calculation that you need to do in part B is very easy. You just take your total tax bill for the year of 55,000 and take away how much employer's PRSI you paid of 17,500, and that comes to 37,500. And as I said before, you look at both of these options and you see whichever one is higher, that is the one you go with. So option A here came in with a 45,000 tax liability, and option B came in with a tax liability of 37,500. So you go with the greater one of 45,000. So that means you've saved 10,000 on tax because you had CT due of 55k and now you only have to pay 45,000. So you're basically getting a 10,000 deduction. Another important thing to note here is if you don't use the relief that you get in 1 year, you can actually carry it forward. So let's have a look at the example that they have here. So this company had, in its first few years of trading, had profits of 8,000, 7,000, 20,000, and then it went up to 76 and 80,000. So it had pretty low amounts of corporation tax in the first 3 years. It only had corporation tax of 1,875, 2.5k, 9.5k and 10k in the first 2 years, but it had been constantly making employers' PRSI payments of 9k every year. So that would mean for the first 3 years that it was in business, it would get the tax relief every year of 9,000 each year. So the total tax relief that the company was entitled to in this case is actually 27,000, which is 9,000, 9,000 and 9,000. So in the first year it only used 1,000 of its 9,000 tax relief, so it had 8,000 unused. In the second year it also had another 8,125 unused, and in the third year it had another 6,500 unused. So the total unused at the end of the 3 years was 22,625. So how you claim it in the following years is you can claim 9,000 in the year after and 9,000 in the year after, and the balance then in the year after that until it's used up. But you can't just use all of this 22,625 in 1 year. So I hope that explained the section 486C tax relief well. If anybody had any questions on anything I went over in that video, please let me know in the comment section and I will try and address them. And as I said, this is only the first video of a few that I plan on doing on the different tax reliefs available for companies, so keep an eye on my channel in the next coming weeks. Thanks very much for watching. I'll talk to you guys again soon.